Hello YouTube and welcome to the Gunpla Network's coverage of COPPA Apocalypse 2019. Now if you've spent any time on YouTube in the last month, you will have inevitably seen some videos about COPPA.
PC is bringing independent piecemeal actions against content creators for violating COPPA. That may discourage content creators from posting content on YouTube. So the analogy that I think of, imperfect, is the expression about shooting fish in a barrel. And YouTube is the barrel, and the content creators are the fish. This action is changing YouTube's business model. That YouTube cannot bury its head in the sand. YouTube cannot pretend that it's not aware of the content on its platform and hope to escape liability for COPPA. Requiring content creators and channel owners to specifically designate whether they are directed to children. And as the chairman noted, not only can we sue Google and YouTube for compliance with COPPA, but also individual channel owners and content creators. And once this order has been fully implemented, we intend to conduct a sweep.
Whether or not you watched them is totally up to you, but you've seen them. You know people are talking about it. Why are they talking about it? What is the big deal? What is it? And how is it going to affect the Gunpla community at large? Well, we're going to explore that today. First, we have to figure out what COPPA is. COPPA is the Child Online Privacy Protection Act, originally penned in 1998 and updated in 2013. Now, originally, the 1998-2000 version basically disallowed any website or service from collecting personal information from children under the age of 12. That would be name, email address, phone number, physical address, mailing address, so on and so forth. Any personal identifiers that could be used by predators to get the kids. Makes sense. You want to protect children. The online world is just starting to become a thing. Well, in 2013, things had changed. Social media started becoming relevant. Targeted ads were super relevant and starting to become more and more so. The FTC was like, okay, well, there's some more information we want to expand that to. We want to expand that definition of personal information to also include tracking cookies and search history, basically, which is pretty much the same thing. But this really started to become a problem for YouTube since targeted ads were a huge thing for them and still are. However, YouTube was totally cool. They're like, you know what? Our terms of service specify you have to be 13 years of age or older to own an account. So whether or not a kid lied about their birth date or were using somebody else's account, at this point, YouTube wasn't concerned. They're like, well, it's not really our problem, and there's no way for us to directly tell which accounts are being used by kids. Well, there's probably some stipulation to that. That was the general concept. And the FTC was kind of in the same boat. They were investigating, but couldn't come up with anything concrete enough. Until YouTube, in their infinite wisdom, decided, you know what, we need demographic data on how many children use our website. The one thing we're not supposed to be catering to. So they did it, and they, in a very official capacity, in presentations to Hasbro and Mattel, were like, you know what, we're the #1 website for children. That's a bold claim and has no specification to it, but #1, 63% of children use our service weekly. Mattel was like, man, I think both Hasbro and Mattel were like, well, that's cool, but isn't that a problem? You know, isn't this violating COPPA? And they're like, nah, it's totally cool because everyone has to be 13 to have an account. Which is where the problem started to really snowball. Once the FTC got a hold of that information, they felt comfortable enough filing a complaint because they had the information they needed. They were able to prove that YouTube knowingly served ads to kids and collected their tracking information, and probably other information as well if they had accounts. Now, YouTube, Google decided to settle that complaint earlier this year in September, having two main parts of that settlement. The first being a financial penalty that was paid out to the tune of $170 million. Now, well, it's like, well, YouTube and Google they're pretty stacked, so it's not that big of a concern. It's not going to bankrupt them, but for the FTC, this is massive. This is not only the largest settlement they've ever won, at least for privacy cases, But this is more than every other privacy case they've ever won, combined, multiplied by 10. This is a huge financial victory for them. The other side of it, which is where we start to be concerned, is in the settlement, they defined content creators as operators. Now, in terms of COPPA itself, what that basically means is we're effectively the same as a third-party plugin to any online service, website, application, whatever, that might be benefiting from the collection of data, even though they're not directly getting that data. Which, to a large extent, is true. YouTube was collecting that personal information, that browsing history, the browsing cookies, and using that to serve targeted ads, which turned into ad revenue for content creators who are making content for kids. So it does make sense. It sucks, but it makes sense. Now, that's the first part of where we're concerned. It's not the end of the troubles. We still has the big troubles, guys. Now, moving forward from that, okay, we're held liable. Part of that was you need to set a system in place, YouTube, to make sure this doesn't happen again. And part of that was the self-identification thing that YouTube's been going on about. Basically, when you upload a video, it gives you the option to select this is for kids or this is for adults. No middle ground, one of the two. If you select this is targeted at kids, you're going to lose all of your targeted ad revenue because targeted ads won't exist. You're not going to get analytics because they can't record information. So your analytics are going to be screwy if not exist at all for that video. Your subscribers will not be notified the video was uploaded. They won't be able to comment or add to watch lists, so the algorithm's super just going to ignore the video. Huge problem. Now they say, oh, well, we'll still run contextual ads, which are ads based on the content being viewed. That's all well and dandy, but the ad revenue rates for those are significantly lower than targeted ads. So not only are their total viewership going to go down, so are their ad revenues by a drastic amount. Big problem, right? Now, let's say, okay, well, I'm not inherently targeting kids, so let's just not say we're targeting kids. If you do that, and when the FTC does their sweep, which could be as early as January 1st, 2020, and they find, hey, we would actually think this, by our 10-step process, is applicable to kids, they can fine you up to $43,200 and some change. I think it's $43,230 or $43,540. $42,000 and some change. A lot of money. A big bunch of money. So people are understandably like, oh God, okay, so what do I do? Well, we don't know. That's kind of the problem. There are some terms that have people concerned, and there's a lot of information going around on kind of how this will work, but part of that 10-step process is understanding what it is and knowing how your content relates to it, which is why I have it written down here, because it's a 10-step process that I didn't memorize because it's kind of weird. So let's go ahead and go down each one and kind of see how valid it could be for Gunpla videos. Stuff we would do. So first, is the subject matter related to children? Possibly. I don't know. Maybe. Kids may like this. Is it inherently targeting children? Are children under the age of 12 your target audience? No. Totally good there, right? Does it feature child actors or child models? No. We're all adults. Great. Here's the catch, rather. Does it include characters, celebrities, or toys appealing to children? Maybe. Model kits, although not technically toys, could be perceived as such from an outside community or an outside eye. May be problematic. Does it include language targeted at kids? Now, when they say this, they don't mean, are you not cursing? They specifically mean, are you simplifying your terms to where anyone under the age of 12 could easily understand what you're saying? No, we're pretty good. We use a lot of fairly technical terms. Does it feature any activities children would be interested in? Possibly. And does it feature any songs, stories, or poems aimed towards kids? Not really. We don't really use any kind of popular music or anything like that, so pretty good. But the problem is the FTC has not told anyone, and probably never will, how they grade that. Does one of those mark you as child targeted, or do you have to hit multiple? I don't know. We don't know. The FTC doesn't know. I assume they do, but they'll never tell us, so we'll be kept in the dark. They did say in their press conference, however, which is kind of giving me some hope, that it will be very obvious who is child targeted, because they were asked in the press conference how do they delineate that. They talked about the 10-step process and specified it is obvious. Now, that in conjunction with the complaint itself, feeling pretty good about this. But in the complaint, they listed a total of 20 different channels that they viewed as, quote, kid-oriented. Fun fact, 10 of the 20, 50% of them, were owned by corporate entities. 4 of them by Mattel, 4 of them by Hasbro, 1 by Cartoon Network, and 1 by DreamWorks. Pretty much all the others were independent channels that had a variety of content. 3 of them were different nursery rhyme channels, so okay, very obvious that's targeted towards children. 1, technically 2 were like toy reviews, but they were aimed more at like children's toy reviews. 1 of them did have video games though, so it's like, and the other one was just general kid cartoon. So, makes sense, right? Yeah, it's a big gray area and no one 100% for sure knows exactly where things are going, which is kind of part of the problem. Now, one thing I really do think is a real big important factor to consider is how this is enforced. Now, as you all know, YouTube also put in place an algorithm to help determine what is kids' content. They did this voluntarily. The FTC specifically said, we don't trust machine learning and algorithms to do this, so we're going to manually review it. YouTube was like, we'll try to help. The important factor there is manually review. For reference, the FTC, the entire FTC, not just the Privacy Bureau, employs a little over 1,100 people. They were asked in their press conference, how in the world are you going to be able to manually sweep the entirety of YouTube, which is where the fun little clip everyone likes to use about fish in a barrel comes from.
Thank you, Dave Pereira from Amlex. You've referred multiple times to the sweep that the FTC will conduct on YouTube channels, and it's an important part of the enforcement of this order. Yet there are 23 million channels that upload a combined 500 hours of video every minute. So, given that amount of content, what kind of meaningful sweep can you conduct?
Well, I think that we have a variety of tools at our disposal to cull through those 23 million channels and in an expeditious way. I mean, this is the way that we generally enforce COPPA, is by actually reviewing content to determine if it's directed to children. We have a variety of factors in our rule that we consider when determining whether or not content is directed to children. So that's the way we do business. It has been successful so far. I think that I have no doubt that it will be similarly successful with respect to YouTube, despite the large quantity of information on the platform.
They specifically stated, we are going to manually review this. Questioner also asked, well, YouTube's last estimate was about 500 hours of video were uploaded every single minute. That's a lot. That was still their answer. So let's say this whole scare and everything cuts video uploads in half. 250 hours of video uploaded every single minute. Every 2 minutes is 500. Every 4 minutes is 1,000 hours of video. Even if every single person at the FTC decided we're all going to work on this regardless our level, entry level to very, very top commissioners. Everyone. They still wouldn't be able to keep up. Which is part of why they were very specific about it's going to be obvious who is child targeted. More likely than not, that's who they're going to try to sweep. They're probably not going to focus on smaller channels because A, they don't have the logistical purpose to, and B, that would kill the court system. Even if they caught a small percentage of the 23 million channels on YouTube right now, it would still be such an enormous load on the court system that it wouldn't make any sense. So they're going to go for very specific wins, as they've done in the past. If they are even questionable, they probably won't try it, because stuff like this has not been really gone through in court. No one has had to define model kit versus toy, or kid targeted voice versus kid attractive. It's just not something that's come up. So likely that's the case, but worst case scenario, FTC sweeps and everyone's considered child attractive. How is that going to affect things? Well, we don't know. We honestly don't. I don't think YouTube would really do anything like that would just kill their business. I don't think they'd be okay with that. But it's here nor there. They care more about money than content creators, but they still care about money. And that would get rid of all of their money, or at least a vast majority of it. So, well, we're cautious. In the future, we aren't intending to label our videos kid targeted, because we aren't making our content for kids. It's not to say they can't watch it, but that's not our intended target. We're here as a community of hobbyists, mostly over the age of 13, to help each other, to entertain each other, to provide information in general. That's where we stand. Now, of course, we've thought about what would happen, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. Overall, I hope I've provided you enough information to be able to go forward and say, I know enough about this whole situation. I can comment to the FTC, because that will help immensely. Being able to tell the FTC what you think, and you've got until December to do this, so you still have a few days, please comment. And there are a couple of different petitions going around. Please sign those if you feel that what you're hearing, this targeting of content creators en masse, this vague doctrine of beliefs, if that is in your mind wrong. Let them know, and be fairly specific. We don't want to just create noise for noise sake, because the FTC won't listen. But if we can make valid arguments, they're more likely to listen. Thank you for watching, everyone. This has been The Spicer. This has been the Gunpla Network. Keep on building.